Hey guys, welcome back to the date dish. Tonight is going to be so much fun. There's a giant snowstorm in New York, so I decided to stay in and make an amazing meal. We're going to be making everyone's favorite filet mignon. So what I'm going to do tonight is give it a little bit of a twist. Instead of just steak and potatoes, we're going to do a filet mignon with a blackberry and thyme reduction. Don't worry, it's easy to make. And to accompany it, we're going to make an amazing cauliflower puree with goat cheese. And the goat cheese and the blackberries are going to tie the whole dish together. Now, for those of you who love French fries with your steak or even fried onion rings, we're going to do a different version of that, and we're going to make crispy fried shallots. And the whole thing is going to be amazing. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and get all of our ingredients ready. The first thing you want to do is take out your fillets. I have two 4-ounce fillets here. You can get 6 ounces as well if you're a pretty hungry person. We want to bring these to room temperature before we cook them so they cook evenly. Now, to go with the fillets, as I said, we're going to make a blackberry and thyme reduction. In that, we're actually going to need about a half a cup of blackberries, half of a minced shallot, some butter, some red wine, and some beef broth, or beef stock, whichever you prefer. After those ingredients are prepped, we're going to go ahead and chop up one cauliflower head. This will be enough for 2 people. And then we're going to finish mincing these shallots, and they're going to go in some flour or fry. So let's get started. We're just going to chop up our cauliflower head into little florets. Then we're just going to cook them in chicken broth, so it gives it a nice flavor just until they're soft, and we're going to puree them after that. It's really quick and easy. I love making cauliflower puree. It's a really healthy alternative to mashed potatoes, and I think it's actually more flavorful. Once I remove all the stems from the cauliflower, I'm just going to chop it up into little florets. You'll want them to be, I don't know, about 1-inch pieces, just so they cook evenly. They don't have to be perfect. So I'm just getting the heads of these, the core, this part right here. I'm going to leave that behind. You can put it in the puree, but it just cooks at a different rate than the florets. Next thing I want to do is I want to chop up my shallots and get a couple of cloves of garlic. So to chop a shallot, they're like little onions. Just cut off the bottom and the top, just like that, and then make a little slit. It'll make it easy to peel. So when you buy shallots, you'll often find 2 of them combined into one. Since we're using half a shallot for the reduction and then 1.5 shallots for the fried shallots, we'll put the bigger half into the fried section, and we're going to mince this finely. So to mince it, I like to make little slits like this, horizontally. Okay? Then, these are really little pieces. Just go through the shallot with your knife. You need to have a sharp knife for this or else it won't work. Okay? And then, just like that. So for the fried shallots, they're pretty circular. We're just going to cut them in really thin rings. So just about this size. Then we're just going to separate them. So we want them like that. We're going to toss them in our flour, and then we're going to fry these. So now that we have cut all of our shallot rings, we're just going to season them with a mixture of salt and pepper and flour. It's just going to provide a nice crisp when they're fried. So I like to season the flour actually. So just put a couple of good grinds of pepper in there. Then about half of a teaspoon of salt. Then we're just going to do a little sprinkle of paprika just to give it a nice little kick. So we'll stir that together so it's nice and evenly dispersed. And then we can begin to toss our shallots in. So just take a couple rings at a time. So we're just tossing all of our shallots, and you just want to get a really light coating, just like that, of flour. Simple, huh? So we're just gonna leave our shallot rings off to the side just for a second when we put our cauliflower on. So just take your florets and just put them in a pot. You can do that, right? And we're just gonna take about a cup of chicken stock. Now I like chicken stock instead of water because it gives it a lot of flavor. We're gonna put that in there and it's gonna cook in the chicken stock. So that's about a cup. That should do. We're gonna take a couple of sprigs of thyme, probably like 2 or maybe 3 small ones, just to give it a little bit more flavor. You'll want to take these out before you puree them. And we're gonna put in a clove of garlic. So here we have our cauliflower, thyme, and 2 cloves of garlic in chicken stock. We're gonna bring this to a boil and then let it simmer. While we're doing that, we're also gonna heat up some oil and we're gonna go ahead and fry the shallots. So to fry the shallots, I'm gonna bring the stove to a medium heat and I'm gonna add oil about 1/3 of the way up the pan. So we're gonna put our shallots in. As you can see, there's a nice sizzle. That's how you know when it's ready. So I took them out of the flour and I basically dusted off most of the excess flour. You just wanna drop them in a couple at a time. Don't put too many in at a time because you'll overcrowd the pan and you'll reduce the heat level too much. So you wanna maintain a consistent temperature. So just put a couple in. We're gonna fry these, then we're gonna take them out and we're gonna put them on the paper towels to dry. So this one, it's nice and golden and brown. We're gonna take this one out. I think these others are ready to come out too. Yep. Beautiful. So I'm all done with my shallots and I just put them to the side for now. We're gonna go ahead and puree the cauliflower. It's fork tender, it's super soft, and that's when you know it's done. So we're gonna just take it off the heat. Bring it over here. And you want to get a slotted spoon because you want to reserve the liquid and then add it in later. That way you can control the consistency. So just take the florets in here. And remember these thyme leaves, we want to put those to the side. We don't want to puree the stems. Next, we're going to add sour cream to make it super creamy and an ounce of goat cheese for a nice tang. So I have about an ounce of goat cheese in here. I'm just going to go ahead and add that. Then we're going to do about 2 tablespoons of sour cream, some salt and some pepper. Good amount of salt. You want a lot of flavor in here. And some pepper. We're gonna pour a little bit of chicken stock just to get started. Make it creamy, not too much. You don't want it too thin. And we're gonna puree this. So I pureed the cauliflower. I actually added a little bit more chicken stock, just a splash to give it a thinner texture. I really like it like this, almost the consistency of like Greek yogurt. Now we're gonna move on to our steak, give it a quick sear, and make the sauce, and we're ready to eat. So now, the fun part. We're gonna sear our steaks just 3 minutes on each side over medium-high heat, give it a really nice brown. And then we're gonna make our blackberry and thyme reduction. So you wanna bring your pan to a medium-high heat. You can use an iron skillet, I like that best, or you can just use a saute pan as well. Our shallots and our cauliflower are to the side. You want to do the steak last so it's nice and warm. So wait till it heats up a little bit and then we're just going to add about 3 tablespoons of canola oil. So you want the oil to coat the whole bottom of the pan so you get a really even cooking and a really even sear for your steaks. While that's heating, we're going to go ahead and season our steaks. So while the oil's heating, we're going to season our steaks. Remember, you want to wait to the last minute to season your steaks so the salt doesn't draw out all the moisture of the steak. So just a couple grinds of pepper. A little pinch of salt each side. So our oil is hot. You'll see a really faint smoke when it's ready. So we're going to put in our steaks now. You're gonna hear that sizzle, that means it's perfect. You're gonna let these rest 3 minutes per side. Okay, don't move them. You want it to really, really brown the bottom side, and then we're gonna flip them over and it's gonna brown the other side. Now, these are pretty small cuts of meat. These are about 3.5 to 4 ounce pieces of meat. If you do have a 6 ounce piece of meat, add a minute to it. So it's been 3 minutes and we are ready to flip these babies. You want a really dark brown color, just like that. Look at that, that is a perfect sear. I'm telling you, steaks are actually really easy to make on the stove. Now watch out, you want long tongs because it does tend to spatter and you don't want to burn yourself. But look at that color, that perfect crust. This is going to be so good. You want to cook these for 3 minutes on the side as well, and then they should be almost ready to go. So these steaks are done on both sides, see they're nice and brown. Because they are pretty thick, I'm going to go ahead and turn them on their side just to get a nice, even color. So just a few seconds per side. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to take these off and I'm going to let them rest. Perfect. So now all we have to do is the sauce and then we're ready for our meal. You'll want to pour most of this oil out, leave about a tablespoon worth of oil. So to make our sauce, you want to bring this to like a medium-low heat. And the shallots that we chopped up before, you want to go ahead and add those. It's going to spatter a little bit. So just stir these real fast until they get, a slightly golden color. We'll just absorb that leftover oil that we left in the pan. Okay, now here's the really important part. When adding alcohol, you want to take the pan off the flame or else you're gonna catch it on fire. So take the pan off, add the red wine, so just start a cup red wine, put it back on, let it simmer, and let it reduce to about half. It's gonna start to get a little bit seared. So halfway through cooking this, I'm actually going to turn my steaks over because when you let them rest, they're still cooking, but the juices flow all the way to the bottom. So to make sure the juices run evenly, flip them over halfway through cooking. So this is the amount of reduction that you want. There's about a tablespoon of wine left and we have our shallots. We're going to add about half a cup of blackberries right in here. I'm going to reserve a couple for garnish. And then we're going to add a cup of beef stock. So now I'm going to add a sprig of thyme just to give it some really nice flavor. And we'll take that out before we plate it. The blackberry juices are straining into the sauce. This is going to be so good. So our sauce is getting pretty thick. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is just spoon out the blackberries. And I'm going to set these aside. You might want to use them as a garnish or keep them on the plate, but when you do spoon the sauce, you want it to be a nice even consistency. So remove the blackberries and the sprig of thyme beforehand. So it's a nice and thick consistency. We're ready to turn the heat off, add our butter, just about a tablespoon of butter. And we're just going to swirl it. So it's just like that. Okay, we're just going to season it. A little salt. Some black pepper. And it's all done. Stir it in. So the first step in plating we're going to cut our steaks on a bias, so it's going to be a really pretty presentation. Then we're going to put a little bit of cauliflower puree down on the plate, put our steaks on top, and then garnish with blackberries and the crispy shallots. So at an angle, start from one end, and just put your knife through. It's going to be about a 45-degree angle. Just like that. Look how perfect that is. It's a perfect color. Next, take a big spoonful of cauliflower puree. A little bit more on. We're going to spread this across the plate. Ready? Just like that. Now, what you want to do, take the other steak end, put it at the back, so you'll have the red facing inward. And then just plate it like that. That is looking good. Okay, see? Beautiful. Now we're going to take some of our crispy shallots, just put them over top. A little sprig of thyme. And then just take like 3 little blackberries, just for a pretty garnish, just like that. Gonna grab our sauce. You just want to drizzle it over the center. That's amazing. And there you have it. How gourmet does this look? So I'm really glad I stayed in tonight on this snowy New York night. Now I get to eat this gourmet meal, and I can't wait to dig in. So I'm gonna try it. Just take a bite. Get a little bit of everything. Oh my gosh. The flavors blend so well together. There's a little bit of like tanginess from the blackberry and the goat cheese, but then you get like the meatiness of the steak and the creaminess of the cauliflower. This goes so well together. It's better than steak and potatoes, I promise. For this simple and impressive recipe, make sure to visit thedatedish.com for all of your date night needs.